Hi, everybody. Today is Thursday, March 12th, 2026, and our dear friend or brother, Andrei Martyanov, is here with us. Welcome back, Andrei.
My pleasure.
Andrei, let me start with one of the, most tragic events since the war started. It was in the first day of war, which was the attack on, the primary school in Iran. The schoolgirls were killed. More than 868 kids were killed in that, assassinated in that attack. And Donald Trump said that Tomahawk. Then, firstly, they said there is no evidence of what has happened. Then it came out that it was a Tomahawk missile. Then Donald Trump came out say it wasn't. Many countries have these beautiful weapons that they may use it. And then it came out and it was done by the many even in the mainstream media. They're talking about it was the United States
New
hitting that
York Times
school.
reported that.
Exactly. Then they came out saying, New York Times today said they didn't update the map they had. They were using a map from 10 years ago. That's why they made a mistake. What is that possible for a country when the first day, it's not just the after 2 days, 3 days, they're running out of targets, they attacking somewhere in Iran. It's the first day that all these targets are strategically pointed out for the military to hit. And what is your understanding of that?
Well, it's either utter incompetence of the American military, which actually is present there. It has been demonstrated very, how to say it, manifested itself in special military operation because, I spoke about it, wrote so much about it. Or it was a deliberate attack on children of their because many of those children have been the children of the IIRG, the Islamic Revolution Guards, and so either way, it's horrible. It's war crime, no matter how you put it. If they have the issues with updating their targeting, then I don't know, they have to remove the satellites from their orbit because they evidently have no use for them. But I think it was done deliberately. And evidently, there are some indications that they tried or either attacked, because we will not know this, sometime after that, to kill basically their rescuers who will come there. So that tells you everything you need to know about. That's NATO, that's its leader, United States, and United States completely lost any moral ground in any possible, basically, facet of their warfare activities. And that, in my personal opinion, again, I think it was deliberate. But if it was, as they say, they didn't update the map, really, then they are simply incompetent militarily people who do not understand what they are doing.
Andrei, finally we've learned from the new supreme leader of Iran today. His message was, one of them was the Strait of Hormuz, that it must be, they have to block the Strait of Hormuz. And after that, today, later on, we've heard from the Iranian foreign minister that this strait is open, but many ships are passing through, but they have to coordinate with us. It's somehow getting tricky what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. It seems that there are ships, there are tankers that are passing through the Strait of Hormuz, but they're not going to Europe or to Israel or any other places.
Yeah, I mean, Iran can be as legalistic and play this lawyering, so to speak, as well as anybody else. In the fact that it's closed, period. The 13 tankers have been already attacked and they are burning. And the latest one we saw yesterday, which, by the way, was American freighted. And what the foreign ministry says is this, essentially. You have the devil, as always, is in the detail. You have to coordinate with us. Iran has the list of the unfriendly countries, okay, and they are not going through, period. But they have been very vocal. Iran was very vocal about that Russian and Chinese tankers, are more than welcome, and they will be, let through without any problems. Some other tankers maybe will be let through, but the rest of it, majority in fact, is that it's the oil from the Gulf states, and it is for the European or whatever, American or other, even India. Evidently, India is having some issues now after it kind of accommodated itself to Israel, and basically, so they will have the issues. Other than that, yeah, sure, if you're Russian or Chinese or somebody else who really is, either supports Iran or stays absolutely neutral in the sense that, at least tacit support, they probably will be let through. Chinese and Russian tankers are going through. The rest of it is just not going through. And as already the commander of the naval forces of the Revolutionary Guards stated, we want U.S. Navy ships to escort them. So they're really trolling now, just downright. That's what it is. Iran knows how to troll, and they are trolling the United States and Israel and what have you.
The other message from the other point in the new message of Supreme Leader of Iran was the possibility of opening new fronts against the enemy if the war situation continues. Is he talking about the Red Sea in the case of Yemen? Is he talking about somewhere else?
Yeah, Red Sea, they even posted the map, Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and yeah. And Houthis already proved that they can do it even with much fewer resources than Iran has. Iran is completely different here. So yeah, it's one of them. Now there is a possibility. Who knows? United States wants Romanian air bases, and evidently Iran has the range on Romania. And so if they want to so there's a lot of things going on, and it takes a lot of time to recheck it, they try to figure out what they're really saying. But yeah, Bab el-Mandeb is absolutely, next, not only possibility, it's highly probable that Iran will close that too. And there is no navy in the world which can open it.
Yeah. Yesterday, White House, pointed out the objectives of the U.S. war in Iran and destroy Iranian missile arsenal. And one of the objectives, eliminating its navy, ensure Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon, and end the threat by the, they call it the axis of resistance. Do you see any sort, because they're talking about Iranian missile arsenal, how far
it's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. These people are delusional, and because they ran into the brick wall now, and they need to come up with some kind of the sensible, objectives for the strategy, which they don't have. They will not have it. The only strategy now is how to extricate themselves from this mess. And so they will be publishing all kinds of garbage, as always did. United States, I speak about this for decades now. United States doesn't know, United States as a whole, as the establishment, as the military, intelligence, political establishment. It's simply incompetent. They don't know what strategy is. They never understood it. They simply are not in the same league as, strategists of the first order. United States didn't produce strategists of the actually global repute since the times of Alfred Ayan Mahan, and even by the time he finished the influence of the sea power on the history, a remarkable book which you need to read just for the expanding of your horizon in history. It became irrelevant by essentially mid 20th century. So, and you cannot, that's what I'm trying to constantly convey, this idea. And so what kind of strategy? They don't have any strategy. They are now like this deer in the headlights on the highway, on the oncoming car. And judging by what we see now, and especially what is being done to Israel, apart from Gulf monarchies, it's over for the Middle East as we knew it, period. It's over. It's not going to be, there will be no Dubai, so Israel, evidently, actually destruction there is catastrophic, actually. And so, and Iran is not letting up. And as already have been stated, that they openly stated, we are not going now for the reaction, tit for tat in terms of the strikes. We are going to be striking nonstop. And that's what they do. And we have now Salalah. Actually the tail of from the satellite photos from those fires is more than 60 kilometers long. I mean, it's just burning the whole thing. And if need be, they will continue to do this because obviously it's first, they have enough missiles, obviously, but evidently also in terms of the drones, and especially long-range drones, I don't know, there's many of them there. So, and they will continue to deal with the horrendous damage, especially after we see what happened with the air defense of the United States and Israel. It's essentially non-existent. So there you go.
Andrei, as a military analyst, when you see Pete Hegseth together with General Kane come out and saying, whenever he's talking about what's going on and what they're going to achieve, Pete Hegseth, to me, it's something like, it seems to me that he's just reading the news on Fox News, and he's not. It's so much propaganda more than being strategic, thinking, the way that he talks usually. But General Kane, what is the point? What do you get from what General Kane says to us about the war?
I mean, I won't take anything seriously expressed by the U.S. Air Force commanders because General Kane is from the U.S. Air Force. And I have to go with Larry Wilkerson. I believe he told you this, which is, I mean, when he was speaking with Colin Powell during the, the first Gulf War, that you don't allow Air Force to actually dictate what operations is because they don't know what they are, which I agree with. U.S. Air Force had no clue actually what a serious war is. And this is the first time when they encounter people who actually shoot back, and even have the, airstrips to fly from. And so they can say whatever they want. Again, this is all the chain, so to speak, of the events, sequence of the events from the catastrophe for NATO as a whole in a special military operation. So they now have this catastrophe happening there. And whatever they say, the United States doesn't have resources to continue it for any foreseeable future. And without basically boots on the ground, what can they accomplish? They will continue to shoot at the civilian targets, so in Iran. But again, we do not even know the actual effectiveness of the Iranian air defense because obviously we don't have data on that. We know that they shoot down some things. They shoot down cruise missiles. They shoot down we know that they shoot down JASSMs and things of this nature. So, but we have to wait and see what is going on. But yeah, they will continue to attack civilian targets. And yesterday I presented this map, not by me, by people who do a good job, OSINT, which is open source intelligence. They showed the map of the strikes of the United States and Israel, and they are primarily concentrated in the western half of the country. Obviously, they attack Tehran, there's no doubt about it, but they obviously cannot reach the eastern part of Iran. It's virtually untouched, and we don't know where all of those facilities are, for Iran. But what we know now, Iran will have nuclear weapon. That's for sure. So this is the greatest achievement of these morons in DC and in Tel Aviv. They, as always, again, those people don't understand what they are doing. They are driven by emotions, hatreds, prejudices, all kinds of things like that. And of course, as I already stated, strategic intelligence and strategic forecasting doesn't exist in the United States as a craft, period. There's none. All those RANDs, all those Council on Foreign Relations and things of this nature, and all those semi-official, think tanks, with all those intelligence people. The only thing they can do is to create narratives. They are not good militarily. They are not good strategically in terms of strategic assessments. And primarily, they produce fodder from the think tanks, which they feed into U.S. Congress. and considering the educational and cultural level of U.S. Congress, which is extremely low, it doesn't matter. You cannot explain to some lawyer, what real operations are. And I want to reiterate again, it's not me saying this. I want to stress it's Robert Latif, Major General, PhD in physics, 20 years service in DARPA. He says everything that American public knows about war, it knows from the entertainment industry. And Pentagon is really good about entertainment industry. They're good at narratives and things like that, and about this whole rah-rah, So, but real life is obviously very, very different. It's completely different, in fact. And you cannot go around constantly declaring that you are greatest. You are not. I mean, not by a mile, And so here we have this, situation now, and actually, Daniel Davis yesterday made a great statement about it. So it's United States being exposed as the militarily paper tiger. The only thing they know in Pentagon, because they have this confabulated history of the U.S. Air Force, much of it is basically myth, that they somehow can do it all. No, they can do it merely by, as I already stated, that's how they understand SIAD, suppression of enemy air defense. It's like hurling everything you got at the enemy and then see what happens, what sticks, Then mobile infantry, reference from the Starship Troopers, go in and mop up. That's not how real war works. And but you cannot explain to some American general how it works because they never faced one. So, and you have the obviously antique people like Kellogg, who got lost also in the Vietnam War. We know how the American triumph in the in Vietnam War. So, what are they basing everything? Well, they're basing this on this fairy tale of the beating the crap, pardon my French, from this pathetic Saddam's army, and thinking, oh God, look at this, we're so good. No, you're not. And that's the issue. And here we have now the last 5 years demonstration of what is happening when you do not understand what you're doing. You have your absolutely perverted understanding of the warfare. And Iran is now showing basically that, and again, politically, it has to be understood. Everything starts from the understanding of the nature of the conflict. You have to understand the nature of the conflict. You have to understand those essentially impetuses. You have to understand those driving forces behind it. United States has no clue. It never had. America's foreign policy, since the last people of the diplomacy of the real scale, such as basically James Baker, left, it's a bunch of morons, basically. They do not understand what they're dealing with. They failed with Russia. They failed now with Iran. And it's not a secret. And I'm quoting, again, not only myself, albeit I arrived to it independently. I can quote you Daniel Larison, for example, PhD in history. He writes for the American Conservative. He says, yeah, United States never knew the world outside. It doesn't. If you look attentively at the level of American diplomacy, it's pathetic. So what can I say?
Andrei, it seems that we're heading toward a serious war of attrition between the United States and Iran, and which we know in which, ammunition, logistics, ammunition are the king of battles, as the Russians call it, the god of battle, if I'm not mistaken.
It's artillery.
Artillery is the god of battle. So from what we've learned so far, the United States has used a quarter of the Tomahawk missiles.
Yeah.
And how do you see the war, continuing, and the continuation of the conflict as time goes by? They need more ammunition. They need more, Tomahawk missiles, all these sort of missiles that they're using, beside the defensive, the interceptors.
First, in terms of air defense, United States problem is not just in the interceptors of the air defense missiles. It's the doctrinal technological problem for American air defense being militarily technologically backward. And it's basically Swiss cheese. And I would challenge, obviously, the assertion by one of your guests that its effectiveness 2 to 4%. It's higher than that, obviously. It's probably an order of magnitude higher, let's say 20%. It's still extremely low. It's pathetic, but not 4%. It's pure speculation. But yeah, it's dramatically ineffective. And the question here is that you cannot fix that. To fix that, you need decades of the research and development, and actually pouring not only money. Money do not buy you anything unless you have people who understand what they are doing. American air defense, U.S. air defense, from Patriots to THAAD, now they withdrew THAAD from South Korea, which suddenly makes overtures towards North Korea, say, oh yeah, let's be friendly, why? I mean, come on, THAAD. So majority of what United States basically did in terms of their air defense, or for that matter, everything else militarily, it's create narratives, it's mythology, fairy tales, how it's effective and how it's awesome. But reality is, yeah, they withdrew this THAAD back to Middle East, and so it's not going to help. It's probably going to get destroyed as the other two or three rather air defense systems. And yeah, it's not going to change anything. It's not. And the United States has issue. It cannot produce enough, and they are bad. They just suck. Okay, let's put it this way. They are absolutely not defendable, and that's where the issue comes in. United States has nothing, like literally nothing, which you would use for the what is true layered, basically integrated echelon air defense. It doesn't have means such as Russian S-1 Panzer, such as Tor M2, so Buk M1, M2, M3. Those are short, which are not really short. They're pretty long range. If you look at Panzer, it now has the ability to strike targets at 40 kilometers. And they have their arsenal, including light Panzer. It loads, its typical load is number of the, middle range missiles and, small missiles, which are called Gvozdь, the nail, which are specifically against drones. Apart from the other anti-drone means, Buk M3, it's a state-of-the-art intermediate range air defense complexes. United States has nothing like this. But these are complexes which not only operate in favor of the ground operations covering the troops, such as Tor M2, for example. It's the tracked vehicle. It's the only air defense complex which can shoot at targets while on the move. That's a whole other technology and extremely actually effective. So United States have nothing. They have nothing to defend, for example, this THAAD with. With what? Some artillery, really. Good luck with intercepting the basically the salvo of several drones, 4, 5, maybe 8. So, and that's how the radar, the critical part of the THAAD, which is not good anyway, is being demolished by Iranians. And so that's going to happen with this THAAD, which is coming from South Korea. That's exactly what's going to happen to it, because it will be and then targeting will be developed, and then Iran will attack it. And so this is what is happening now, the final demolition of all this U.S. Military mythology about how great they are, which they are not. And now we have the talk about draft and ground operations, even without getting into any model and any kind of the operational planning. That's what you cannot explain, for example, to a lawyer or some political scientist, people who infest, U.S. Congress. And you cannot explain it to them. They don't have toolkit to grasp it. You plan based on the modeling. U.S. models are outdated, and most of them have been created by the garbage in, garbage out. Such as, for example, they were feeding they were drinking this Ukrainian Kool-Aid. Now, suddenly, what do you need to, let's say, okay, let's imagine that United States, the political climate in United States is such that United States, U.S. society, American society wants that. Of course, we know it's quite opposite, and you probably, on the first approximation, you will need 2 million of actual combat troops to actually go into Iran and have any chance on the occupying it. And so what does it mean? Well, you need to build the army. How long to build the army? Well, they have to ask Mr. Shoigu, who is now actually personal aide. He was promoted actually from the position of the defense minister to personal aide to Vladimir Putin. He will tell you what it took, because he spent from 2012 to 2021, essentially, it was 9 years, rebuilding and building, modernizing Russian army, which critically in the operational and strategic sense has the experience and institutions which United States simply doesn't have. And even that, after the start of the special military operation, first year was immediate adjustment of the army of the peacetime into the army of the war. United States doesn't have the time, it doesn't have resources, and it doesn't have military culture. And so when you look at that, so good luck with that. And there is some idiot who's saying that, I don't remember who, oh yeah, we need 300,000. No, you don't. You need something probably 10 times more, considering the fact that you have the whole country, which is 1.6 million square kilometers and 93 million. This is, that's not serious, okay? Just to give you an example, Vietnam was it was around 5 times smaller than Iran, and at that time the population was 35 million. And but again, you cannot explain to Pentagon generals that what they saw in Venezuela, or let alone political leader in the United States, that what happened in Venezuela was basically Venezuelans saw their own president, and they think that they can do it all the time. Iran society is different.
Andrei, if it comes to the ground forces going inside Iran, how do you see the capabilities of Israel in that direction?
IDF is, listen, I want to quote the person who knew them intimately and communicated with them. He is late Colonel Lang, who was, in the end, before his death, he was making a lot of confessions on his famous blog at that time. He was talking about their knowing IDF intimately because he was in contact with them constantly. It's a gendarmerie with the heavy weapons. They are good at fighting Arabs. In the open field, well, and even that, and not anymore the case, because evidently they had the big issues in southern Lebanon. So I don't think they have any real serious bearing on that. The only thing they have is that they have the so-called wanted Israeli Air Force, which is essentially American Air Force and U.S. Air Force, and the Merkavas are burning. Yesterday, couple have been burning in Lebanon. So yeah, I don't think they are capable of fighting real serious enemy, and especially when you look at the expanse, geographic expanse of Iran and terrain, which is nightmarish. It is a nightmarish terrain. You cannot attack, you cannot maneuver there. You have to get yourself into the narrow highway, whatever it is, which is easily blocked. And it doesn't matter what kind of Air Force you have. You have this, what is called défilé in French, that basically expands the width of the, basically the main route. That's how, for example, the Romans were also planning for their, the march columns. So you have to go there, in the single file column, so, and you that on arrival, you can try to obviously do something in the close air support, but it's not going to help because obviously Iran is infested with all kinds of the man pads, and some of them are really good. So when you look at that, good luck with this. It's going to be a massacre, and Vietnam will look like the stroll in the park compared to what could be expected there.
Andre, you mentioned the air defense system coming from. I've shown you here the footages of South Korea. They're sending 7 THAAD air defense systems
Yeah, they're
to
basically
Israel.
stripping them. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
basically stripping them off, and that is why suddenly South Korea uh, has become so friendly towards North one, because they understand first. They wouldn't. It wouldn't matter anyway. Even if they had those thoughts, if God forbid that something horrible happened, and then North Korea had to attack, for example, they would burn Seoul in no time. Okay, so and no thought would help. The fact is, they would also destroy thoughts. Thoughts, as already demonstrated, a highly ineffective system. It is primarily, as most of it, it's the marketing. That's the and yeah, let them get those thoughts, but they're not designed for the modern war. And thoughts are designed for the obsolete, outdated ballistic missiles which fly on the predictable ballistic trajectory. Its radar has the, so to speak, lead time, because it is obviously having it's beyond the horizon. They call it beyond the horizon. Most likely it's over the horizon, although it's probably using the tropospheric effect. Maybe it is beyond. You understand the difference. It's either goes as tangent towards the Earth curvature, but it doesn't see what beyond it. The over the horizon, beyond the horizon radar is different. It sees actually what is going on, on the ground. But anyhow, they do see, kind of the ballistic missiles. They sit there, their computer calculates this ballistic trajectory. They compile this, what is called track. And based on this track, they develop firing solution. They launch the missile, which must, calculate the point of meeting with this warhead or what have you. The threat is absolutely not designed to intercept maneuvering blocks. Well, Iran now has the technology of the maneuvering blocks. They know how they maneuver, and most importantly, they have the ability to re-accelerate, which means what? They have their own motor there, which allows them to re-accelerate during the entrance. So that is why we know how ineffective all this is, because Israel have been essentially, its defenses now. You look attentively what is happening, like yesterday, Tel Aviv, Iran just breaks through at will. And again, that is why they forbade to any kind of leakage of the situation on the ground, because it's catastrophic. And so when you look attentively today at the Ben Gurion airport, and you look at other places there, it's stampede essentially. And so it's not going to help much. And but yeah, they need to move some kind of assets. But again, I wrote 4 books on that. Okay, and the main thrust of all 4 books is that American TOE, US TOE, Table of Organization is Equipment, and equipment is from 1990s, early 1990s. It is designed to fight impotent, disorganized, semi-literate Arab standing armies, such as Saddam's army. That's it. It's expeditionary force, which is incapable of sustaining long-term operations. And now, as you correctly stated, it is all about attrition. Iranians took the page out of Russians, who said, no, we're not getting this thing, on our balance, like the rest of Ukraine. We cut out 4 oblasts. The rest of it, we're going to physically annihilate whatever is thrown at us. And they achieved it to a dramatic, effect. And so it's happening right now. I think Iran has enough means to continue to essentially destroy Israel. And I looked up oil price today. It was surprising. It's one of the indications, which is very serious. When they essentially unlocked, unsealed the strategic reserve of the oil. Oh yeah, prices went down. I thought, okay, maybe in the week, maybe a couple of weeks, 24 hours, it went up again. So even those dumbest stump speculators on the energy market, they don't believe any statements or any attempts to stabilize it. And as I already stated, I don't pay attention anymore to all those people from energy department or Gulfists, because there is only one man apart from Vladimir Putin, who knows how it goes, and he plans, and then he's a genius in this case. It's Alexander Novak. It's the first vice premier. He used to be the minister of energy of Russia. Russians are preparing to, well, yeah, that's the whole other story what Russians are preparing to. But we see the end of the. That's it. It's over for the Western world, and United States had the chance. It didn't take it because it's obviously not United States anymore. It's Israel 2.0. It is completely corrupted and subverted by the Israeli lobby. And we can see ourselves what is happening.
Andrei, here is a footage from yesterday. We don't see the footages coming out of Israel. Many, have just few footages coming out of Israel. This is one of them, Andrei. And you see the missiles coming down. It seems like, a lot.
It's cluster munitions. Iranians have their cluster munitions, warheads. And yeah, you cannot intercept them once it's released. I mean, there is nothing which can stop them. And so first, Iron Dome it's again mythology, all kinds of the marketing, it has nothing to do with actual military capability, and it wasn't designed to intercept that type of missiles anyway. For you need to use all kinds of the interceptors like hats and David slings and things like that, which are still ineffective. And yeah, it's cluster munitions. They deal a lot of damage, including to the civilian infrastructure. But then again, Iran is merely responding to the attacks on its civilian infrastructure, and it will continue. And that is why Israelis are trying to, basically control the narrative. But no matter how they try, there's still some footage is leaked into the mass media, and Al Jazeera today apologized for showing the destruction in Tel Aviv, for example. I don't know. Okay, well, they ran this footage from evidently somebody who is connected to Al Jazeera, and then of course they apologized. It's just the way it is, and nothing could be done about it. And Israel is in a very, as Garland Nixon says, deep kimchi.
Yeah. One of the generals in the Iranian army said that all these warheads right now is more than 1 ton, and they're not using less than that anymore. And usually when you have such a warhead, what is the devastation of this sort of explosion, or when it hits the ground?
Well, it depends first not only on the actually weight, which is horrendous. I mean, obviously, even if it explodes on the surface, but it depends also on the type of the warhead, because it could be armor-piercing type thing. It could be thing which could work into penetrating deeply into the ground. But it's horrendous. It's horrendous. I mean, it's just, you don't want to be anywhere near this thing when it explodes, because it's the zone of the affecting the whatever buildings, people. I mean, just the compression, the basically of the air, it can kill you, like within the 100 meters, which is 300 feet easily. You're gonna go basically deaf, on your eyes may pop up. So it's horrendous weapon, and so. I don't know the technical characteristics of the Iranian missiles. I can only speculate, and I don't like speculation. I like to operate with the more or less, reliable data. But yeah, it's horrendous. It will basically, level it could level or damage tremendously the city block. So.
And the footage is coming out of Iran, Andrei. We see, I think recently, many of these Tomahawk missiles without, in its entirety. You don't see that the Tomahawk didn't explode, didn't do anything. They're bringing the Tomahawk out of the building. What is really the rate of these missiles that they don't work, they don't function the proper way?
Nigeria recently, the attack on Nigeria disclosed that the third of them didn't explode. These are, again, they are powerful weapons only in Trump's imagination. Reality is Tomahawk has been around since actually 70s. And obviously they are not flying those Tomahawks. They have been long ago, disposed of. And these are the Block 4 and Block 5. But evidently there is something with the fuse there. I don't know what kind of the problems. I believe Tomahawk Block 5 and Block 4 should be more or less new missiles. It's just that United States definitely is trying to switch itself to JASSMs, as they say that it's the better missile. It's kind of stealthy, and the JASSM extended range starts at 900 kilometers range, and then they want this extremely whatever XLR, whatever the even longer range missile JASSM, which will be 1900 kilometers. So that's probably the way to go for United States in terms of the substitution with this fairly old technology, Tomahawks. No matter how you improve them, and they still could be, used, but it's obviously it's JASSM, which is the new missile. But yeah, even the fact if they shooting at Tehran and Iran the Block 4 or Block 5 and that they don't explode, just tells you something. There's something with, I don't know what it is. It's either quality management system which doesn't work on the whoever Lockheed or Raytheon produced them. I don't remember. I don't care. So but the percentage of them not exploding is rather high. And again, Nigeria exposed it like out of 12 missiles, 4 didn't explode. It's like, really? This is horrible.
Andrei, the repercussions of this war in the Middle East, or the impacts of this war in the Middle East, is somehow amazing to see. Today, we've learned from Iraqi Resistance Council, they say they have evidence that UAE has struck Saudi Arabia oil facilities, Aramco.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. If that's the case, it's going to be a huge issue for all these Arab states in the Persian Gulf, because not only Israel is attacking them, they're attacking themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's who they are. They're a bunch of the useless parasites who sit on the. Actually, it was Western technology which developed for them. You look at Dubai. It's Western made. It's basically built by primarily Western engineers and slaves from Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan. So I have no actually sympathy for them. It is what it is. It was all of fake plastic, world created with this model, which is unsustainable of the the prestigious. Was the name of it, tourism and investment with all kinds of garbage like those, Palm, the Jumeirah, whatever the name of this thing. Only morons would buy things there. But yeah, when you have money, it doesn't mean that you're smart. Very many of those people are dumb as stumps. So, and they do go for prestige, for this overpriced junk they sell in their shopping malls, and drive Lamborghinis, whatever. It's just, it's all garbage. So that tells you everything what you need to know. And as one of the how it was, let me give its very famous proverb. One of the sheikhs of the Emirates, and this is not actually some kind of urban legend. It actually was documented. He said, "My grandfather was driving the camel. My father was riding the camel. I'm driving in Rolls Royce. My son will be driving in Rolls Royce. My grandson will be riding the camel." And this is exactly what is happening. And yeah, they attacked by Israel, which wants to create some kind of the conflagration there. They will attack each other. And again, the first indication of how bad it is was a few days ago, when all of their foreign ministers all flew to Moscow. And Mr. Lavrov gave them the dress. He humiliated them essentially, in a very polite manner, although Lavrov can also humiliate in not very polite manner. But he humiliated them. He said, "You see, you wanted it. enjoy. You want to go and say anything against your master, which is United States and Israelis? No, they're cowards. They will not say anything. Their billions depend on that. And so they will continue to self-immolate. And as I already stated, Middle East will never be again the same, period. And they have to pray to God or Allah, whatever, that they are not all of their essential extraction facilities and refineries are burning now. They might, and that is going to be a catastrophe. But even the Hormuz Strait itself, we already see what is happening. And I can tell you one thing, the White House is in panic. And but then again, they should have studied better. You cannot get the proper military and political education in the United States anymore.
Andre, the whole agenda of going on Iran, we know that the greater Israel, all of this, but the whole
it's
agenda is on the part of the United States is the hegemony, is to control, the energy, control the regions, to show the power of the United States. So far what we've seen, it seems that the Arab states, they're not feeling, the things are not going good for the United States. And even Japan, today we had protests in Japan against sending weapons, to help the United States. This is the first time for Japan this sort of things happening. And it's huge for the political, because they were protesting against the prime minister. I don't know, the president or prime minister they have in Japan. But we see what is happening in the case of South Korea. It's about all these, I don't know if we can call them allies. They're vassals. Some of them are vassals of the United States, basically the Arab states.
Arab states are vassals. They have no subjectivity. They are all for sale. And they don't have real serious foreign policy. The only thing they care about is money, period. That's the thing. And as I already stated, anybody who, I didn't watch, for example, the World Cup in Qatar. You know why? I cannot bring myself to watching things which was happening on the venues, which were built with the slave labor. I couldn't bring myself. I love football. I mean, real football, and what is called soccer. But I couldn't watch it. I cannot bring myself to this bunch of the basically parasites, because they are all parasitic entities, and presenting that Qatar. You have the imbeciles from this whatever the ratings about the universities, the great universities in Qatar. These people are cretins, basically, So and again, they pushed this basically resolution into this defunct, corrupt United Nations, which doesn't matter anymore. It's a useless, organization which needs to be dissolved, and something new has to come into being. And so, that's who they are. That's who they are. They it's all about what I get in return, how I can enrich myself. They don't care about anybody else, and they got punished now. And this is, as I already stated, just the warm up. And so evidently there is no way out for them anymore. And the damage across the globe is massive, because, as they say, global economy, there's no global economy anymore. It's already actually splitting into the spheres of influence and, macroeconomic regions, which is inevitable in this case. And they are all defined by their power. And United States power have been completely undermined. Everybody now sees. In Ukraine, they still could hide behind the backs of the Ukrainian cannon fodder. That's not the, they know what's going to happen if they go, up front. They will be defeated in most humiliating fashion. But they decided to do it, because they do not have proper military, political, strategic assessment. And again, you cannot get this in some humanities degrees from Harvard, Princeton, or Georgetown. And you see yourself what happened. So what did he say, Trump? 1 day, then 3 days, 4 days. It's 2 weeks now. Well, how many weeks we have to go? I think Iran can endure as long as necessary. I think they have been preparing They are good strategists, and they are ancient culture. Oh, you're Iranian yourself. It's an ancient culture. In fact, it's an ancient civilization, and so they have these newcomers essentially who try to, show how great they are, and they are not.
Donald Trump told the Arab states that the war would be over in 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
Just amazing to me to hear that. It's amazing, and how naive, how stupid one can be to simply believe what Donald Trump is talking about. Going
Yeah,
against
he
a
is.
country like Iran and talking about 4 days. It's amazing to me.
He is a political corpse. And you remember 2 days ago, he stated that the war was won. Okay, so that is why they withdraw all remaining thoughts to Middle East, because the war is won. These people, first, Donald Trump, he is not in himself. Essentially, we have the very serious onset of dementia, which starts with, as many noticed, people who are from psychiatry and psychologists, that he is confabulating. He may believe what he says. He really, and with his narcissism, which is borderline mental disorder, yeah, he can say whatever he wants, and those people who buy that, they are no better than he himself, But so the point is that we have a complete discreditation of the political power in the United States. You have the people who openly support genocide and war crimes, such as this Senator Lindsey Graham or this moron Ted Cruz. The bunch of Christian Zionists. These are people who are not Christian. These are heretics, which, they have loyalty to Israel. So we have a complete disarray of the political life and political system in the United States. And that is why I now use term. I introduced it yesterday, and now we can say about American national tragedy. It is a society in the process of the decomposition. And what we see now, I don't know what's going to happen politically. Obviously, as corrupt, as insane Democrats as the GOP, they have their basically knives out for Mr. Trump. But he is increasingly begins to remind us of Nero, who was playing his lyre while the Rome was burning. This analogy is legitimate, and in fact, it is irresistible for Mr. Trump and his administration. So people who are utterly incompetent, and again, we know why Trump is controlled by Israel. And yeah, so now they have their saying that, calling their Epstein Fury, this so-called what's the name of it, operation, is anti-Semitic. No. That's what it is. United States doesn't have sovereignty. It is owned by Israel. And we can thank our political leaders who sold us to Israel. So United States is not United States anymore. Period.
Yeah. Andrei, the fracture that is happening within the Republican Party is amazing. When you see Megyn Kelly, she comes out and somehow destroy the whole concept of going to war again in the Middle East. And he's losing a lot of people in the United States, the same people who voted for him, who were trying to do everything to help him winning. I don't know how does J.D. Vance feel right now, because he literally wants to be the candidate, the president, the presidency candidate of the Republican Party in, the presidential candidate of the Republican Party in 2028. How is he going to save himself with what's going on with the
there's no way. And again, you have to understand, Republican Party, real conservatives, not fanatics of the laissez-faire capitalism. No, I'm talking about real conservatives. They either separate themselves from Israeli lobby, or it's the end of the GOP, and we're gonna end up with the one single party system, which it's already is sort of in place in the United States. But GOP is utterly corrupt. It has their loyalties to Israel. And if they don't see it, well, too bad. You know what? And so what can I say? I repeat it again. United States doesn't have U.S. Congress. It has the Knesset 2.0. And we have to thank our friends from Israeli lobby and those Christian Zionists who really are not loyal to United States. They are loyal to Israel. It's the whole idea behind them is Israel. And fact is, many of those pastors, they preach that you can easily find it, that Jews are better people than we all are. We are subhumans, in other words. So they wanted it. Let them continue to attend those, Christian Zionist so-called churches and worship Israel. So, but that's what GOP is.
Andrei, one of the other points in the new message of the new supreme leader of Iran, he recommends that the countries in the region shut down the US bases as soon as possible. And this is one of the most important arguments on the part of Iran, and they're so serious about it, Andrei. They were talking about this for such a long time. And now practically they're doing this. Physically, they're just removing the bases from the region.
Exactly. That's the point. 14 bases evidently are goners now. 14 US bases in the area are goners. Gulfists are exposed as the paper tigers that they are. And that will continue. They will be physically removing the personnel and physical infrastructure from the area, while in the same time, basically, leveling Israel, and that's the strategy. That's what it's almost the same in a sense. If you look at the analogy with what Russians did with the special military operation, they were saying, "Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this," and then they annihilated more than 2 million of the Ukrainian Canfora. More than 2 million are wounded and maimed for life. And so we have the demographic catastrophe in Ukraine. That's what they wanted. So, Russians said, we warned you. Same goes with Iran. They said, we warned you. You didn't want to do it. You attacked us. So here we are. And that will continue. United States is not gonna have any bases, any, for that matter, assembly area. This is what people who wrote FM 3-0, American doctrinal publication, ADP 3-0, is that it's called operations. They still cannot wrap their brains around because they don't understand what real war is. United States Army cannot, even if to imagine that it wants to go, it's not Iraq. Iran will know where the assembly areas are. They will know, they will have the targeting, and they will develop basically the structure of the salva, which of course United States cannot intercept, and they will attack assembly areas. Even before United States Army, if to imagine, wants to deploy somewhere in whatever the columns, battalion or brigade combat team, columns they want to deploy, they will be attacked before that, which will mean what? High level of casualties, because United States doesn't have viable air defense. They bought into own, fairy tales about air power deciding everything, which it is not, and so as the result, it's understandable when you fight, for example, in the Pacific theater, where the U.S. Navy covered itself with the, glory and valor, and nobody even argues with it. It was the heroism of the highest level, and it was the, just no doubt about it. It's historical achievement. And so, but because of the carrier-centric warfare, so to speak, they said, oh yeah, the battleships are goners, we have aircraft carriers. Oh yeah, air power decides everything. Then they go into Europe. By the time most of the fighting was done and Soviets defeated Hitler in 1944, but oh yeah, our 8th Air Force with British did this and that. Well, they did primarily bombing the cities, and but the real fighting was done on the Eastern Front. And by the time nothing to take away from heroism of the American U.S. Army or British people, but 80% of Wehrmacht, creme de la creme, was destroyed on the Eastern Front. And then this fact, which they do not want to admit, you cannot explain to some dude who teaches in the U.S. Air Force Academy that, dude, Red Army ended with the largest operational tactical air force in history by the end of the World War II, not U.S. Air Force. And it was the largest by far. And of course, when you look at the number of the aces, which are the the Russians, and like So, but they evidently don't get the message. They believed in their thing, and obviously, then you have the Wehrmacht generals who wrote these doctrines. As always, United States bets on losers. It bet on Ukraine. It bet now those pathetic whatever they have this, especially the opposition in Iran, which now suddenly changed its mood. So they are incompetent. Simple as that.
Andrei, to wrap up this session, I think the alternative for these Arab states in terms of their security, their prosperity, goes to the concept of Eurasia. If they want a better life, if they want to live in peace, they need a better relationship with the Eurasian countries.
Yeah.
Which, do you think that is the question in the mind of these Arab leaders? Because we know how addicted they are to their power and how fragile is the situation in their own countries. The public opinion is somehow against them, and they understand the situation. For example, in Bahrain is totally
Bahrain Shiite. There's a
unstable.
Shiite majority actually in Bahrain, which is being ruled by Sunnis. But listen, not to be accused of some kind of the prejudice, and let alone racial. No, I have actually Arab friends, wonderful people, actually one of the best people. But Arabs as a whole, as the civilization, they are for sale. So they will not understand anything, especially their elites, which are utterly corrupt. The only thing they care about their luxury lifestyles and their money, period. Unless Arab people somehow, Arab Strait rises up and removes them. But I don't know, it's very difficult for me to judge. And and especially Gulfists who have been spoiled rotten with their social programs. And basically they lived like Romans, they had the slaves from India, Pakistan, and elsewhere, Sri Lanka and other Asian countries. They toiled in their whatever satrapies to keep it more or less clean and functional. The only desire by them in those Gulfists is to become, as my friends who know the area really well, it's to become the chief, basically manager of the some bank's branch, and do nothing every day, and then drive and do whatever they do there, including the sexual perversion for which Dubai has become known. And so, it's not good prospect for them changing loyalties, but the fact that they run immediately to Lavrov, obviously some indication, but getting into this high technological, high intensity real economy development world, it will require more than just desire, so. And they are American creatures, and they probably will die as such, together with the American presence in the Middle East.
Thank you so much, Andrei, for being with us today. Great pleasure, as always.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.